In this video, we are going to be preparing to carve and carving our piece of wood on our CNC machine. So right here we have the setup for some clamps for our piece of wood, which come with our Carve set, but you can also order them on the internet for your table. And so depending on your piece of wood and how far your little holes are right here are from your piece of wood, you have to use different sizes of either these plastic bits that get closer or farther from the wood and help clamp it down, or these little aluminum pyramids that you put the clamps on to make sure it's tight and it's got some backing to it. And depending on the height, you have a screw that you put in it, and if it's very high like this, you'd have to have a longer one, and if it's not as high, you just use a shorter one like this. So we've went around and we've tightened our clamps all around our piece of wood so that when you try to move it, it doesn't really move. So that's good. So what you have to do now is you gotta clear your workspace right here and make sure there's nothing on it. And now you start moving your router head so that you can start your carve. So over here on our computer, we have our Carve software. So we've measured our material and done everything right here. So now we have to move the router head so that we have it where we want to start. And having it where you want to start is kind of important, because if you don't have it in the right place, it could go off and it could not be the right carve for your board, and it could ruin your whole carve. So you click right here. We have our step intervals to 1/10 of an inch. So that'll move it a little bit each time we press this. So this is our y-axis. This moves it not horizontal. This moves it vertically to the board, and this moves it back and forth, and this moves it horizontally to the board, so side to side. And this z-axis, this moves the router head up and down so that your router is either on the board or not on the board. So now I'm going to jog my router head so that we have it near our spot where we want to start carving. So I'm going to try to get it as close as possible to our spot right here so that our carve is on track for being its best carve. So I'm going to take my y-axis. Since my head over here is way above where I want to start right here, I'm going to take my y-axis and I'm going to move it down. And that seems like it's going to take a really long time. So I'm going to put up my step interval to, let's do an inch at a time. So this can be readjusted later, because that's an inch for everything, including horizontal and the z-axis. So I'm going to, there's an inch every time. So I'm going to move that until I get really close. And I'm going to move down more, and I'm going to move horizontal just one, and then I'm going to bring down my steps just a little bit for the fine-tuning. So then I'm going to bring it back down to 0.1 right here. So I'm going to move just a little bit, and I'll keep working on that until I get it to my perfect place where I want it to start. So over here we've adjusted our router head, so that it is just barely touching the piece of wood, not too deep so that it ruins our carve, and not too far up so that it makes it not deep enough. So we're going to go through our steps. So we've measured our material, we've double checked, and we've made sure that it is the exact thickness and dimensions that we need. So we're going to go next. And right here we clamped down our material like we did over here, and I showed you, and so you just make sure that your material is secure. So now we're going to confirm our bit size. Back in the previous video, we had a 90-degree V-bit. So we're going to make sure that it is 90-degree V-bit, and we're going to check over at our router head. And it is in fact a 90-degree V-bit. So we have our bit size, we know what it is. So we're going to click confirm bit size. So we've moved our bit to 0 as we did in the last moment, And we've got it to the surface of the material, and we're going to confirm our home position, which is what we have. So you go through the final steps. We have the raise a little bit. So that raises that a little bit so that it adjusts everything. So is our dust shoe attached? So our dust shoe is basically something that goes across the surface of the wood as you're carving, and it is attached through this tube to a shop vac, which sucks up all our dust and makes sure we have a clean workspace for the CNC machine to work. So we make sure that's attached, and we got to make sure it's relatively close to the surface of the wood, but not dragging too much. So yeah, we have the dust shoe attached, so we can check that off. And we're going to verify the automatic spindle control is working by turning it on now. So we're going to turn on the spindle right over here, which is our router head. So click the on, and it is spinning. So that's good. So we check that off, and then we're confirming that our spindle is on, and we're good. So we're going to click Carve. It's going to simulate our tool paths, or the computer is going to say what is most efficient for a CNC, and that might take a little bit, so we're just going to let it sit here for a little bit. Once our tool path has been simulated, it's going to give us a time that is going to take for our carve, so that's 29 minutes, and it's going to start, and we're going to have a feed rate right here, which is for our selected wood, how much time it's going to take. So we're gonna, so you can either change that to have it go up to make it go faster, or you can make it go down to make it go slower. And right here, it's about 60 inches per minute. That's probably all right. So now the machine is starting to carve. So once we've finished our carve, like we have done right here, you can go back to get your router off your piece of wood. You have to go back to your carve settings, and then you have to again move your router bit up with your Z-axis just a little bit, not too much, just so it doesn't drag on the wood, and then you got to move it back up horizontally along your Y-axis. So yeah, that's our 0.1 right there, so we can go back to 1 inch right here and make it go a little bit faster. And then it'll be off the wood, and now you can take off your little fasteners right here. Just make sure you get them off. Goodness. And then you go around the whole board, just taking these off, and then you have your perfectly carved piece of wood, which is basically ready for painting and finishing.
You're a dork. Just hold it in front of you. Hold it with 2 hands like that.